Thank you.
Well, it's 5 o'clock. I guess we'll call the meeting to order. Do roll call real quick. Dave Evans,
Here.
Claire Parsion,
Here.
Darren Reyes,
Here.
Deb Stacy,
Here.
and John Torman is here.
Yep. Okay. I will go ahead and read the minutes from April 15th. Okay. The attendance was Dave Evans, Darren Reyes, Deb Stacy, John Timmerman, Claire Pargin arrived at 6:15 p.m. Deb Stacy, Allen Township Zoning Commission Secretary, read the April 11th, 2024 minutes. Motion 24-04-9M. John Timmerman moved to approve the Allen Township Zoning Commission minutes from the April 11th, 2024 meeting. Darren Reyes moved to second the motion. Motion passed. Matt Cordonier? Cardone?
Yeah, just say Matt.
Matt from Hancock County Regional Planning attended the Allen Township Zoning Commission meeting. Matt added insight regarding the different types of businesses and industry and how that would impact other entities that surrounded them. He also interjected comments regarding the Expressway Service District. The Allen Township Zoning Commission discussed whether the B1 and B2 should be combined to form a new B1 district, or if the three business designations B1, B2, and B3 should be kept separate. The Allen Township Zoning Commission plans to revisit business districts as well as a topic, as well as more discussion pertaining to industry. During the Allen Township Zoning Commission meeting, guests were invited to make comments and offer input on numerous topics pertaining to zoning. Motion 24-04-10M. Claire Pargin moved to adjourn the meeting. Dave Evans seconded the motion. Motion passed. Okay, so we'll do our typical signing for our official copy, and then we'll.
Probably
We
have
need
to have
to
a
accept
motion.
it.
I will.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
will. I will. I didn't forget. Stop right there. Okay.
Since I already signed, I'll move to
Oh,
accept.
if you can.
Oh, yeah, I gotta date it. don't I?
Yep. Okay, you can ask for a motion to approve.
Am I allowed to move?
You can?
Yeah, I move to approve them.
Okay.
Minutes.
I will second.
Okay, Darren's going to second. And everyone agrees, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay. All right, that's squared away.
I guess we're gonna start them with B1, or all the business districts, or do you have any other business you wanna?
No, we can just dive right in. The document I handed out, the one-page one, it's the intent resolute or paragraphs for each of the business districts. I think we need to read through those and see if we can combine them or not combine them, because we have so many things that are kind of, I tried to do that, combining them into one, and I was like, I cleaned them up good here with red for the things we did, questions in blue, and then we can maybe, it's a little more organized for being able to kind of chop this up. It got very confusing.
I believe it.
Yeah.
My office has been, I was telling them, 80 degrees every day, so my concentration level stinks. So I don't know if it was that, or if it really is just sort of too many things that overlap. Things that we discussed, once I read down and read more carefully into B3, a lot of them are already there. Things like gas stations, stations for fuel, those are already listed. Where these other ones say like service stations, and we've got to, I think what you need to do is decide, are those the same thing? Are you going to differentiate them some way better than that? Because it's kind of confusing. And when other people read it, they aren't going to be sure, well, do I fit in B2 or B3? Do we want them only in one, or do we want them? in both, but if we do, we better identify them as both or define them clearly what service is. 'Cause there aren't that many service stations where you just pull in and they, clean your windows and take care of stuff anymore.
I haven't seen a Marshall window forever.
Well, they used to. When I was in high school, they did, but not so much. And we didn't even use horses. It was with cars and everything.
Right.
I guess I'm used to my kids with that next line, so I have, yeah. So, maybe you guys want to read through those, and then the one-page one with the 3 different type or intent. See if there's anything you think you should combine, or if, when reading these intents, if you think you should keep them separate. This is all your vision to do as you want. There's nothing, no legal issues either way. It's all about what you want to do. So after that, I'm just going to step out and do the typing.
Are people already reading it visually, or are we gonna read it out loud?
Read all of this one.
You wanna read it out loud? Okay.
I have bifocals at all.
That's all right, I'll read. Section 1000.
I told him like this.
intent. This is for B3 intent. The B3 general business districts are designed to provide sites for more diversified business types, which would often be incompatible with the pedestrian movement in the community business districts. B3 general business districts are typically provided adjacent to major highways and are designed to accommodate uses requiring the high traffic volumes normally experienced at such locations. B2 community business districts intent. The B2 community business districts are designed to cater to the needs of a large consumer population and are generally characterized by an integrated and planned cluster of establishments served by a common parking area and generating large volumes of vehicular and pedestrian traffic. And then B1 business districts. The B1 local business district is intended to permit those uses as are necessary to satisfy the basic convenience shopping or service needs of, what is that, 333? Are those supposed to be there?
300.
Ooh, no.
Well, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, this was, wow, I wonder how that one happened. I wonder what that word's supposed to be. I took a PDF and had it converted to
Right.
Word, and it changed some things really weirdly, and I didn't catch that one, so I don't know
It's
what it was
supposed to be 33 persons?
I'll look back at the original hard copy.
Probably just leave it out, maybe.
Yeah, because there'd be more. Don't know.
Satisfying the basic convenience shopping or service needs of persons residing in nearby residential areas. The district is intended to accommodate neighborhood-oriented businesses, which can serve as transitional areas between residential and higher intensity districts. B1 districts should typically be located at intersections of major and/or secondary thoroughfares, as opposed to being applied to in a linear fashion along major highway.
Yeah, it just shouldn't be there at all.
Yeah, I
Must
thought-
not
have been
what I
some
figured.
weird
Yeah.
code it picked up and changed to something. I swear.
yeah, that's fine.
I did find the term we use instead of thoroughfares now, it's major collector.
That's way better.
Wow.
So if we want to change everywhere, it says thoroughfare to major collector. But is every one of these where they say thoroughfare going to be a major collector?
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
I guess my question to that is, at the very end here, it says major and/or secondary thoroughfares. So is a major and a secondary both?
Should we say major and/or secondary collector roads?
Yeah, I'll try to look it up on the county engineer site.
Yeah, I did. That's where I got major collector, but I didn't see any.
Secondary collector?
But thoroughfare doesn't I mean, they switched it to that, but it doesn't always apply in all the stuff we're doing. It doesn't fit right. Major collector, it seems kind of, especially when we have major and secondary. Instead of thoroughfares, we ought to just say roads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
You know,
simplify it.
Because when people read this and see major collector, they're
Yeah.
like, what the heck is that? You know,
Yeah,
it's kind of a
right.
term of art for the engineer and
Right.
planning people, which
Right.
they don't always talk like the rest of the world when they're looking at this.
It's simple to say roads.
Yeah, I like that.
Say
What do you
roads.
Is there anything wrong with saying roads?
I don't think so, especially where we identify major and/or secondary. Clearly,
Right.
we're identifying, and we do call them feeder roads in other sections, like around in the expressway
Mhm.
stuff, so I think that's more consistent.
I think the
So-
public would appreciate that if they were
Why don't we
forced to read
change
this.
thoroughfare to roads?
Okay.
Sometimes the simple makes perfect sense and we still try to get around it.
Okay.
Now I know why Ed May wants another cell tower out here.
Is there any,
Can't get any service.
Oh,
have you talked to Ed May recently? About the zoning stuff or anything?
No, last I talked to him was about a cell tower location.
Apparently, that subdivision that's right near the village, I don't know which one it is or where it is,
Yeah.
but they're covered by village zoning, but they're in the township.
They,
I think we have another one of those extraterritorial situations going on, and they will have to be covered by the new zoning. So what's going to apply to that group?
yeah, I mean, I think it's a situation where they're using the water and
Doesn't mean
the
they can.
utilities.
They,
I know.
yeah, they might be able to require annexation for that, even though, of course, that's something I've been fighting forever. But but being able to be covered by their zoning, I don't know how they did it. Said they did it with some sort of agreement, but I don't know if that, did you guys ever see
I'm
it,
not-
or?
We've not, I know we've worked on the possible expansion, but then they have all the drainage issues. And I think they abandoned the expansion because of the drainage issues.
Of the subdivision?
Yeah,
Yeah, and how, whatever they want to do with the subdivision is, it's neither here nor there. The problem is, if they are currently covered by village zoning, that's gonna have to be, it'll be superseded by township zoning. And if there's conflicts, then there's gonna be some issues, so it probably needs to be addressed, probably at the planning level, I think.
yeah, I mean, we don't have any, or I don't have any authority over village or township zoning.
Yeah, but they do come to you guys for recommendation, it has to,
Yeah,
and there's.
I'll bring it up next time I talk with
Okay.
Ed.
So did anybody have any thoughts as to reading? You said they don't combine easily when you were looking at it.
I was having some trouble combining them, but, you know, that's the question. Do you guys, when you look at the intents, do you think the different intent that's set out for each one of these, do you think they're necessary to stay separate? Or do you guys think they would be okay to in some way combine them? And how would you do that for the intent? Because we have to do the intent paragraph as well, not just the
Sure.
things that are in there, so. I think 3 has the things that are in 3 wouldn't be comfortable in the area that we want to have as B1. Because B1 seems to me to be more of the walking kind of places where they're close to residential maybe, or on the fringes of the village where they become, a business district that's more of a walking district. But 2 and 3, when you read them, a lot of them are duplicates. And the things that are in 1 can be in 2 and 3, because we've decided to do that, the pyramid kind of thing within the types of districts. I think, is that something you wanted to do? Because we discussed it last time, and I thought
Right.
everybody said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But we don't want it to like district down into industrial kind of thing.
Right.
At first, we contemplated combining 1 and 2.
Mhm.
But that really doesn't work at all, because 2 and 3 are very similar. But there are things that are limitations in 2 that are not limitations in 3. So you'd lose some way to limit some things. The restaurants without drive-through windows are in 2, but with drive-through windows are in 3. So do you end up with never having that place where they can't have a drive-through window? I mean, that's where we stand if we go, see what I mean? That's where I got kind of,
You go, you got the smaller place, and then the next place, the next one a little bit bigger, and then next biggest. But then some people prefer the little and the middle size and the other. And that's the only way you're gonna satisfy
and
them.
that's how it was set up the last time, that there were the 3, because
Say,
they were.
leave it as such.
Okay, if that's.
What, the
I
3
agree.
separate? Is it?
Yes,
I think
because
so.
if
I
a
do too.
little amount of people wanna, to live in a smaller area, and you've got other people that wanna live in a little bit more, and then the other ones that want, a lot more.
Right.
So just leave it to 3.
And like business 3 that is has the most broad things permitted, you can still have all the stuff that's in 1 in there. If you want to have, your, or in 2, if you want to have a restaurant without a drive-through, you can still put it in 3. It's not saying you can't.
Right.
But it's just you can't come up into the area that wants to have the more
Smaller
boutique
area.
shop kind of area and have the same stuff that would be in, the
Big stuff.
larger big box
Sure.
shopping center kind of area.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I hope you guys get a shopping center. It'd be awesome to have one out.
I think that's
More
a ways away.
traffic.
I'd like to have a Wendy's out here.
But,
I'd like to have a Wendy's.
no, I just want one of those outlet malls like they have
Yeah.
along.
That would
Yeah,
work.
perfect spots out here.
But have you been to the one let's see, my son and I went up to, what's that one up, it's close, oh shoot.
In Lodi up by Cleveland.
No, not
Oh.
that close. Oh shoot, it's right off 24. We went up there to the penny store.
Is that a thing anymore?
What, Benny's?
Pennies?
There's a few left
Joe's
around.
not
Yeah,
here.
but the whole place, the storefronts were empty.
Yeah.
They were just,
There
it
are
was a
new
big.
ones everywhere. There's one in Aurora, one outside of Cleveland, there's one outside of Cincinnati, but there's none in Northwest Ohio.
Well, they used to have a camper show and some other things, and people would go, oh, yeah, we're gonna go up there, and you don't hear it mentioned anymore.
Yeah, my
We
daughter
went up
pretty much
over the
lives at the one
weekend.
in Aurora.
Okay, so sounds like we decided to keep the 3 separate business districts, keep them separate from each other. Is that-
I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
I am-
think
I
it's
am
the
too.
easiest way to do it.
I think so.
Okay, that second stack that I gave you is the things that we already
Bless you.
discussed, with some red and, did it print clearly with red and blue and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. With the colors for the things that you've changed, lines that you've marked out, and then some blue where I had questions about, are these something you guys need to discuss? So maybe if we go through these a little bit more with all those changes already in there, we can get it more organized in our heads. I don't know, it's made.
I see that 333 thing again.
Yeah, I know, it must have just transferred with the,
Okay.
it also changed all the M's to RNs everywhere. Can't figure that out. There are a lot of M's in this document.
So these are the changes, the red is the changes we were discussing at the last meeting.
Yes, that
Okay.
you've talked about prior to now, some were, yeah. And then the things that are lined out were things that you decided you wanted to take out and change with the red.
Yep.
And the blues are my thoughts as I'm going through here about, I had a note, but I didn't know what you guys had decided or if you decided anything.
Okay. Okay.
Does anybody want to read?
Sure. Starting at the very beginning,
Sure.
the B1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Article 8, B1 Business District, Section 800, intent, the B1 Local Business District.
We might not have to do that because then we just go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just skip
Jump
down
down
to
to
801.
801?
Yeah.
Section 801, principal uses permitted. In a B1 local business district, no building or land shall be used and no building shall be erected except for one or more of the following specified uses unless otherwise provided in this resolution. Retail businesses which supply commodities on the premises doing business in a facility no larger than 30,000 square feet.
That 30,000 square feet was because we talked between 20 and 40. I just put a placeholder in there.
Right.
Like the Dollar General.
Yeah, and the Dollar General is, what they say, 10,000? Isn't that what Zoe looked up and
I think so.
she
That's
Googled it?
That's the number I remember saying.
Yeah, while I'll see if I can get it to load.
2, restaurants or other places serving food or beverage except those having the character of a drive-in.
Is that pulled from B2?
Yeah.
So should it go back to B2 at this point?
Well, at B2, it said you didn't have any restaurants that, B2 said restaurants with no drive-ins. So what kind of restaurants are you
Okay.
gonna, I mean, in B1, you probably
Except
don't want
for those.
drive-ins either,
Okay.
right?
Oh.
Or drive-throughs.
Okay.
Characters of a drive-in. Except those having a drive-through.
Mm-hmm.
Drive-through, not drive-in.
Mhm. Okay.
This was so old, it was back when they had car hops, right?
On roller skates.
All right.
3, service establishments which perform services on the premises doing business in a facility no larger than 2,500 square feet.
You guys satisfied with that one? We discussed it last time, and those are the smaller things that you're,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know what kind of things they'd be, but,
Smaller.
yeah.
Yeah.
4, dry cleaning establishments or pickup stations dealing directly with the consumer. Central dry cleaning plants servicing more than one retail outlet are prohibited.
Where are you gonna put those? And I know, I agree, they shouldn't be in B1, but keep in mind that they need to be, we need to look at that for somewhere.
So, okay, so when you say central dry cleaning plant, that's like a common area that may be servicing the smaller,
It would be something like the ones that go around and pick up the shirts from everybody and clean them,
Hospitals.
and they get hospitals cleaning, they get nursing home
Nursing homes,
cleaning.
yeah.
It's really a factory that does
Okay.
dry cleaning, as opposed to a store where people go and drop off their cleaning.
okay.
They're constantly in progress.
But that would be the dry cleaning plant.
Right,
Right,
Mhm.
right,
So that's saying that they're prohibited here.
right,
Probably a
So-
good example would be the city laundry actually has a plant
exactly.
Yeah.
behind like Cole's Distribution Center back in there, where they take
One
care of all
interstate, yeah,
of the,
back there.
and then they have the other facility on Main Cross Street where you can drop off your
That's where they
pure
started.
blouse dress. Yep.
Yeah.
And that service is just,
Just resident,
Walk
even
in.
if they're doing the dry cleaning in there, it's for the people with walk-in, drop-off, not for
Right.
the big commercial
okay.
kind of, which changes the scope of what they're doing and the kind of impact you could have on the neighbors. And that's what we're worried about with B1. Things that have no impact other than pedestrian traffic on neighbors, really.
Is that getting into industrial at that point? Or
It
is it?
might, or B3, we'll have to
Right.
see.
Okay.
it seems like that's weird, that's kind of such a specified thing, dry cleaning.
Well, it's got
I
the
mean, there's gotta
chemicals
be
and
some,
everything.
I know, I just think there's gotta be some other things probably
When
that,
we get down into industrial, we may find a section and go, that would fit in there. And then we don't have to worry about identifying it. We can do somewhat like you did with the square footage and, lump things in, because who knows what'll come along? You can't always guess. And making a list is just so difficult because,
right?
I don't know how many times I've heard, well, they want to do this, but it's not listed anywhere. It's not all inclusive. And people come up with things to do that, it's
Right.
innovation. They come up with stuff that we aren't expecting. We aren't the entrepreneurs.
And what makes sense is where it says dealing directly with the consumer. That makes you think, okay, it's where you drop off, pick up.
Right, yeah,
I think it ends up being covered in the industrial,
okay.
based on what I've glanced through before. I have
Okay.
it marked here as industrial, so.
Ready for 5? Business establishments which perform services on the premises such as, but not limited to banks, loan companies, insurance offices, and real estate offices. 6, daycare facilities. 7, business.
I added
Yeah.
daycare facilities because I had a note about it, but I wasn't sure if is that something you guys want in B1? That would be the freestanding daycares kind of thing?
I think we talked, we didn't want it in residential, something, in some sort of business district.
That's okay, I guess.
7, business and professional offices and services. And then parentheses, add size restrictions.
Because up here, we have business establishments which perform services on the premises. And then down here, we have business and professional offices and services. How are those different from each other? Is one of them based on the size of the business? Is one of them based on whether they have clientele coming in and out, and others are fully where clients don't come in and they do everything internally?
I would lump them all together as professional offices.
That's what I was kind
That's
of,
the
because I
easy way
think
to
the
do it.
two, yeah. Okay, so
And then put a
7
square footage
maybe.
on it.
Yeah, I mean, or you define professional offices clearly as different than an office building.
Like maybe with an employee count or something? I mean, because if somebody says we've got 1,000 people working, it's gonna be working here, that's a lot different than
It's a
what we're
lot of
thinking.
traffic.
Right.
In general, when I think of professional offices, I think of, 1 or 2 accountants, a chiropractor, things along those lines. As long as you create some difference between that and an office with 250 people, those are different things.
So for 5 and 7, what are we doing here? Can we combine them? Do they have to, business establishments which perform services? And then the other one is business and professional offices and services.
Yeah, I think they're very repetitive. One is kind of more financial based and one is just, but,
Do you do 5 and just add a number count, like under 150 or under 250? I'm just,
no, in the B1, I would think a professional office would be kind of exactly what, a chiropractor,
An attorney.
employees might be
Yeah.
tough. I would personally lean towards a square footage. Professional offices, X amount of square feet or less, and then I would define professional offices. And just, professional office includes medical, these types of uses, but it's on a smaller scale that can fit in near a neighborhood. I mean, there's standard, professional office to me seems to be a zoning term that I've come across in other codes. So you can kind of borrow one of their
So-
But to me, if someone came to me and said an office of 200 people, that's not a small office that
Right.
is near a
Right.
neighborhood. That's more
Right.
of a bigger type institution.
Right.
Like a professional office, not more than 10 to 15 people running in and out, and then a bigger one
So
would be
would
on
we
that.
want to further define it by square footage? Like, for example, like 2,500 to 3,000 square feet, is that more in the ballpark of what we would expect something in B1?
Again, this room is about 1,000,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Just for rough,
We divide it up, yeah,
So
that'd
you
be
get
big
two.
enough
So,
space.
so at least 2 to 3 times bigger
Yeah.
than that. That's a decent size.
that's getting, yeah, you double the size of this, and I think that's a big accountant office or whatever,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you're starting to get,
Too big.
So maybe,
Is there also doctor's offices and stuff?
sure.
Because I think I wonder what size that new Terra Nova. I don't know if you're familiar with that one on
Yeah.
Foxman Road.
In my mind, that's a little bigger than a professional office, but that's just in my,
Right, and that's what we have to kind of define.
so maybe we're down to more like 15 to 2? I don't know.
I would bookmark like 2,500.
That's what we used last.
Okay.
And then-
Service establishment, so.
You know, I
Okay.
think a little more research of
Okay.
examples. I didn't get to do the research. I got some more maps made. But I didn't get my square footage
Okay, that's fine.
examples researched.
I'm okay with 2,500.
Yep.
Would you just add that to the item 5?
I think the idea was to kind of eliminate the list and go by square footage, so I'd almost just add it to 7.
Oh,
Well, why don't we make 5 say business establishments and professional offices doing business in a facility no larger than 2,500 square feet,
That makes,
which perform services on the premises.
Okay,
Leave it there?
yeah.
That's fine.
That sound good? And then take out 7 totally,
I think so.
okay?
go
Is
with,
there anything else that we don't have covered that you guys would contemplate or see in a B1? Now, we don't have to worry about all those things that we were talking about, like piercing or tattoo or any of those things, because we have that small business and the smaller footprint, you know, facility size. So we don't have to, a lot of times we sit here trying to contemplate all the businesses that can come in. We don't need to do that. You covered that with a more general, which I think will work out way better for you in the long run. And it does lean more towards the more liberal, that people aren't gonna feel like you're taking away their property rights, because there's a lot of things you're gonna have the ability to do. You're not
Right.
stomping on any particular thing. Okay?
Yeah, less restrictive,
Be less restrictive.
yes.
I guess using the terms more liberal in Hancock County is kind of a weird
Yeah.
thing to say, right?
Yeah, it is.
Less restrictive, I'll go with
Yes,
I
more
thought
or
lightning
less.
was gonna hit you.
No, it's from this.
Yeah,
okay, we're going to go with 8. Other uses similar to the above uses?
If you're not listing uses, do you?
can that,
Yeah, because we aren't really listing uses anymore.
right.
So just take out 8.
Mhm.
9, accessory structures and uses customarily incident to the above permitted uses.
That's a nice catch-all to always keep there for things that we don't realize they need to have to go with whatever their business is. So,
I don't know how legally the soundness is, and I apologize for always saying City of Findlay, and I'm not trying to
No,
make
it's okay.
Allen Township City of Findlay. We do kind of have a catch-all statement under conditional uses. Any uses not listed, but similar. It's a conditional use, may be granted by the planning commission. So, for example, we had a cat cafe in downtown Findlay. And so, is it a restaurant? Is it a kennel? What is it? And so that was caught under the catch-all statement. It went to City Planning Commission. It's a conditional use. The City Planning Commission heard them, and then they put a limitation, like you can't, the city's concern was they don't sell much coffee and they turn into a cat kennel. And they started with 5 cats and now they're boarding 45 cats
Are
on
they
the
open?
weekend.
Oh,
No, I don't think they'll ever open.
Oh, I was like, really?
It was a strange
Weird.
situation. We had 2 people apply for the same property at the same meeting. They both were under contract, it was the whole thing. But anyways, I don't think that they ended up being able to purchase the building.
Oh, that's too bad.
So,
That sounds fun.
so,
Cats all over.
so having kind of that catch-all under as a conditional use, and then all conditional uses in the code must go to the planning commission, so that gives the planning commission the opportunity to review it and place conditions, approve it, deny it, or place conditions.
Yeah, there's no conditional use section in this B1. Have you guys noticed that? It's all permitted uses.
Yeah. I like conditional uses. I feel like it gives the community a little more say in what's going up.
I like them too, because they're more, they're a little more vague, and attorneys love vague because they like to argue, make their cases. And that's kind of that puts more onus on you as a group, because you're the one they'll come before to see. And the concept being, if there's a conditional use and they make application for it, they come to you guys and you have this kind of discussion, is this something that's contemplated and fits in what we were doing? And you're the ones who make that call. If they think you did it incorrectly, then they can appeal you to your Board of
Right.
Zoning Appeals, and they can decide if it really did fit. So there's that, process. It is an extra step for residents, though, who want to do something on their property, to have the conditional uses. And there are a number of conditional uses we have set up in the B2.
When I find it, I'll read you off kind of what the Ohio Supreme Court language that they supported for conditional uses on how you evaluate, and that'll give you a feel of kind of.
Yeah, I don't think we'll put that in each of these sections, but I think in that miscellaneous stuff that comes later when they talk about variances, conditional uses,
Yeah.
and in variances, we put down, what you can look at in deciding if you're gonna grant a variance.
Well,
Well,
that's what-
BZA does. And then this, we did in there, if there's a conditional use, these are the items that need to be met. Then people can look at the code and know, I'm going for a conditional use, and these are the list of things that you'll be considering, and then they can prepare their argument appropriately, May not convince you, but they can prepare. And when it's done that way, it's not a slam dunk that they say, we did check, 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 you must. It's, these are the things that you can consider, and this is our explanation for it. That,
And that way they can check into insurance for what they're planning to do.
and you guys can look at it and, when somebody's wanting to develop something on their property, a lot of times they have some pretty good tunnel vision of what their dream is and how they want to do it, and they aren't aware of how what they're going to do could have effect on the area in the general or their immediate neighbors. And that's where conditional uses come in, where you guys ask those hard questions. Well, what's this going to do to your neighbor? How are you going to cover this, this, and this when it happens to your neighbor? So, and if they have a plan that you like, you go, yeah, okay, that'll be okay. If they don't, and it's a plan that you think is lacking, you can add to it, that's what the conditional use does for you. It still is, most of the responsibility is on the person applying to you to have something in order that something you could accept, but you have a framework to look at, and then you guys can decide.
You can keep going with required conditions at that point then?
yep. Ready? Section 802, required conditions. 1, all business establishments shall be retail or service establishments dealing directly with customers. All goods produced on the premises shall be sold at retail on premises where produced. 2, all business, servicing, or processing, except for off-street parking or loading, shall be conducted within a completely enclosed building. Section 803, area and bulk requirements. See Article 14, schedule of regulations limiting the height, bulk of buildings, minimum size of lot by permitted land use, and providing minimum yard setback requirements.
Back to page
Was that-
34.
Is that missing on that section missing? It's in red?
Yes, it's missing because it came out completely garbled.
Oh.
And I didn't remake it until we had everything added into it. The conversion did not function well on that's for sure. I think that the whole thing they just put in Word that will take any PDF and change it into a Word document still has a few bugs.
Yeah.
I found the conditional use stuff.
Okay.
The Planning Commission shall review particular facts and circumstances of each proposed conditional use in terms of the following standards, and shall find adequate evidence showing that such use of the proposed location, 1, will be harmonious with and in accordance with the general objectives or within any specific objective of the Findlay zoning code of current adoption. Will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change the essential character of the same area. 3, will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses. 4, will not be detrimental to property in the immediate vicinity or to the community as a whole. 5, will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police, fire protection, on and on. Or that persons or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequate any such service. So those are the 5 standards that the Ohio Supreme Court has kind of, and if you think about those 5, it's pretty broad. You know, the surrounding area, services, hazardous or disturbing, detrimental to property, etc. So rather than listing a lot of conditions.
Is it possible to print that off so that?
Yeah.
I'll have it next time.
Okay.
I can pull it out. It's in the Findlay code. I can just go zap it out of there.
Yeah, I'll make a note to email it to you.
Okay.
Because I think the latest code, the administration hasn't got it up on the website,
Oh,
so.
But I did like the verbiage, like to be harmonious with
Yeah.
what that is the intent. That's
Yeah.
what is trying to be accomplished there.
I remember reading that Supreme Court case when I was looking through some stuff, thinking, it's been the kind of the guide that we use. It's just not written into most of the books, but it can be now.
I'd like to see it written into ours.
Okay? Yeah.
Ready to go on?
Do you want to look at the height and,
34.
this was one of the things that we discussed the last time a little bit. I don't know if we talked about it for these. We did for expressway service. But the minimum yard setbacks on front, side, and back, and then also the height in feet. Now, in B1, we have a lower height here, only 25 feet, which makes kind of sense, because they're gonna be pretty close to, or, couldn't even be,
Right.
overlapping slightly with some of the residential areas, and you don't want towering things. You want something that's more harmonious to the area, but it fits in, so. So if is 25, how tall is that? Is that 2 stories?
It's a maximum 2 stories. I
Yeah.
mean, a 2-story might be pushing it to standard 25 feet.
Right.
So do you want to make it taller than that?
What would go in that would need to be more than 2 stories.
What, you mean, like if you went 3 stories?
If we were gonna increase this number.
Because 25 may not be 2 stories. right?
Sometimes you're kind of pushing it to get a
Okay, so
25
you're
story.
trying to say to accommodate a second
Yeah,
story.
do you want to have 2 stories or not? That's the question.
I personally wouldn't go over 2 stories.
I would never, yeah,
No,
not in this
no,
section.
No.
But
Just
do you
leave it
want to
as
go
that.
to 2 stories? Or do you want to stop at 1?
Now go with 2 stories.
So you're gonna make it 30?
Can you get a third story with a flat roof?
No, not enough. I don't think you can. I mean, you'd have to have 8-foot ceilings on the second and third floors, and probably the height, they probably go by the grade, don't they, surrounding the building to determine the height of the building? So if that's the case, you'd be pushing it to get a 3-story in 30 feet.
Stick with 2.
In a commercial building, unless,
Yeah.
like I say, they had 8-foot ceilings or something on the second and third.
That'd work out well for you.
No, thank you.
So do people want to take it up to 30 then? Or do you leave
So
it at
that's what
25?
we had talked about.
It's at 25 right now,
Yeah, okay.
so
So I would still price to be a 2-story.
30 is still 2 stories, the way you're looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to, like I say, 8-foot ceilings. On the second, third floor, you might be able to get under 30 feet, a 3-story.
We're talking 2-story, right?
Right.
Yeah, so 30 feet for 2-story?
Yeah,
Sure, 30 feet then.
You could even put a caveat, 30 feet,
No more than 2 stories.
no more than 2 stories.
That would work,
I would prefer that.
yeah. Mhm.
Setbacks, are we okay with those at 30, 10, and 20? I think that I is that they can have parking in the front yard. So if they have 30-foot setback, it's not wasted space, they can use it for parking.
Okay,
Mhm.
Which is where most businesses want to have their retail
Right.
parking.
Right.
And the other minimums and maximums of cover and unit size don't apply in this section. At least they didn't before, but I don't think they probably should.
So we done with the setbacks?
Move on to the next section.
Article 9, B2 Community Business District. We have intent, we've already read. Section 901, principal uses permitted. In a community business district, no building or land shall be used, and no building shall be erected except for one or more of the following specified uses unless otherwise provided in this resolution. 1, office of service establishments such as, but not limited to the following. A, office buildings for any of the following occupations: executive, administrative, professional, accounting, writing, clerical, stenographic, drafting, and sales.
Okay, we're back to the office buildings thing, but we don't have any paragraph in there that incorporates the things that were allowed in 1. Do we want that?
for the pyramid thing, I would say yes.
So you're saying B1s could be in B2s?
I think. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
I would think so, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I would recommend removing the occupations.
And stick with square footage again? Or,
In this area, no, I don't really have, I would say, depending on how, if we B2, B3, but at some point, I have no concerns. They can build as large of an office building as they like. That's just,
sure.
Should just say office buildings?
Yeah, because if it's an
Yeah.
office, what makes a difference what they're doing
I
in
mean,
there?
it could be,
Right,
could be a call center, it could be, I mean, it could be a lot of different things.
right,
in a-
right.
Could be Dunder Mifflin.
Yeah, that's right.
When we get to the off-street parking, is that based on the occupancy, the number of parking that they have, or the size of the building? I can't remember, and I haven't looked at it for a while.
I don't know how this code does off-street parking.
Well, when we get to that, we'll have to try to, keep in mind that if we're just saying office buildings, we also have to make sure when we're, what the off-street parking that we're requiring will be adequate for the size of the number of people.
Right.
If it's gonna be an office building with 10 people, okay. If it's gonna be one with, 200 people, we have to take into account that they
Right.
need them parking.
Right.
Because not having parking for your building stinks, just saying.
Yeah. Yep,
So we're gonna remove the occupations
Yep.
on the.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it'll just be office buildings for A.
When you're driving by, you don't know if they're CAD drawing,
And,
it doesn't matter,
Right.
it's an office building.
Yes.
B, medical office including clinics. C, hospitals.
Should we put medical offices, clinics, and hospitals?
On the same line.
Or in B2, what are you asking?
Yeah, or do you want hospitals in
No.
B2?
Well, if we're gonna have a B3, I think that's probably where it goes.
Okay.
Because from the medical office and including clinics, they'll send to the bigger hospitals if need be.
Clinics are, I think would that be a same-day surgery center kind of thing? Or is that going to the hospital issue?
That would go into the hospital.
Like what's Physicians Plus? Are they classified a hospital
I
or?
think that would be a
That, they
clinic.
send them to Blanchard Valley Hospital. It's a patch-up station till they can get them to a bigger place.
I know, well, I guess what I'm asking is what defines a hospital as opposed
Versus
to
a clinic.
Surgery rooms.
Or
Well, and that's where,
hospitals have the ability for in-stay. The clinics do not, but they may do the same work.
yeah, and that's where, your definition section is one of the, it's more important than you think, because, or maybe we all think it's important, but, but that's where you define what a hospital is, and that's where you define what a medical clinic is. I mean, unfortunately, we could end up with 300 or 400 definitions. You have to, and I think part of the process, and this is just a suggestion, is kind of working all this out, maybe making notes, like, hey, we probably need a definition for this.
That's what I've been doing. Whenever we come across something that I don't think we already have a definition for, I'm making a note to go find one that we can discuss. And we're running across them here occasionally, things like, what's a hospital versus a clinic?
And then, not to muddy the waters a little bit, but it's an issue that we deal with a lot. It's rehab facilities. And
Those are
whatever your view on any of it is, a lot
rehab
of people.
facilities and halfway houses and rehab houses.
Yes, a lot of people have a lot of concerns with those.
Yeah.
And so, it's something you might want to address in the code.
Well, they usually have a time limit on those, that a person can be there.
Yeah, but they are still there, and they are
Yeah,
still
they are
functioning
there.
there,
Right,
and they will have people living there.
right.
The other thing is Adamus occasionally builds residential centers. They have one over by the senior center, that Basu Point, and it's not really an apartment complex, it's more of a assisted living for mental or mental health people. Got to decide where you want those. You don't want them in residential. Do you want them in residential, or there's something that be permitted? That's where the optimal place to put the recovery homes are, is in a regular neighborhood where people assimilate back into society. What kind of rules do you want to put on them? Do you want to make them conditional use? It's one of those things to think about.
Make conditional use, because it's easier if they're at a place like Birch Haven. They have the different setups for the ones that need care every day. They have the ones that they can go and get their meals. And it's not, they have these different buildings for everything. And they had built, not so long ago, apartments for people to stay, that they can eat in the dining room if they want, but the dining room isn't always available, so that they can go to restaurants and go where they want and come and go as if they're renting a regular apartment.
Yeah. The recovery houses are the things that I think will be the most problematic.
Those, but also, also the there's recovery houses, to me, is a separate category, and those can be for a lot of different types of recovery. And then there's outpatient rehab centers where everyone, you get your medication like on a daily or weekly basis. And then there's facilities where you live at, overnight, and they have medical professionals on site. So my recommendation there, it's something you guys will want to discuss, because they'll come in and say, we are a medical clinic, we're a medical clinic, and without further documentation,
Then you may want
they are a
to make
medical
a
clinic.
definition that identifies inpatient or outpatient kind of treatment,
Definitely.
which, if they provide for overnight, then put them in a category that's different than the doctor's office, walk in, get your treatment, and walk out.
Right.
But the treatment facilities where they come for a daily are not, I don't think, going to be a big thing for much longer, because now they can get prescription go to the prescription counter, get them, and take care of themselves at home. That's not being permitted.
Yeah, I know we have two or three of the outpatient ones in Findlay, and then
Yeah.
the inpatient, I know Manor Hill, that was quite a ruckus when it went through, but luckily it's not been an issue since it's been approved. But yeah, so I just was dealing with that today, and so when that
And we're
came up-
using all these, polite, treatment facilities. They're like, they used to be called methadone clinics, that's where a lot of drug addicted people come to be able to get their treatment, which has some impact on neighbors.
Right.
For sure.
So it's one of those things you want to keep in mind. But my son's a pharmacist, and he said down in Columbus, he goes, they just get prescriptions for Suboxone. They don't even have to go to get, they just pick it up from them once a week. And they sell a lot of it.
Yeah.
That's quite the problem.
It is quite the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So,
Okay, where are we? Are we in personal service establishments, including barber shops, beauty shops, and health salons? 3, all retail business, service establishments, or processing uses as follows.
Back to personal service establishments. Up in 1, we dealt with that. We took out personal, we made it with a size limit. So do you want to do
Yeah.
service establishments and then make a larger size limit here?
I think
Because
that makes as much sense.
so we had 2,500 square feet for the, in B1, which took into account the small storefront kind of businesses. This is a more, a less walking area, more driving area, could be a bigger business. You want to put in a larger square footage that's permissible?
Or you could just personal service establishments exceeding 2,500 square feet.
there you go.
With no maximum? Or-
Correct. The ultra mega salon, 200,000 square feet. So, I mean, that's my thought is,
Yeah,
Then we don't have to worry about it.
yeah. Yeah.
and the same would kind of go for retail exceeding whatever size threshold is researched and kind of come up with.
So on number 3
But
here.
if you do retail exceeding that 30,000, that's getting into the Walmarts and whatnot. And didn't we say you wanted that more in the B3 district rather than B2?
Walmarts are like 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's still
And that's-
exceeding.
Yeah.
That's true, that's
That's
true.
true.
I keep going on the.
You're thinking 2.
Two thinking two, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
So do we want exceeding here on this one? Or should exceeding be in B3?
But even, I would say, you know, personal service establishments, they're by nature fairly small.
I don't disagree. I was looking at the list.
Yeah.
Well, could not be. What about a gym? Where does that fall? Is that
Yeah,
a
when-
personal service
When you
establishment?
say health salons, what all would
I
that?
think it depends on how you define personal service establishment. I mean,
And we can't define that. There's no way to do a definition for personal service establishment. There are too many personal services that could be included, so we're
is a
trying to
hel-
get away from.
Health salon like a gym? Because that could be quite large.
Right.
Or a yoga studio.
So do we want to put a cap exceeding 2,500 but less than?
Up to
Up
whatever.
to,
5,000 or something?
I think this might be, I think B2 might be a place to
Mhm.
still have a cap.
mm-hmm,
And then B3 would be anything above. So,
What cap would you think is good?
Something in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. I mean, it can be
For
double the size.
dollar? Did you say dollar?
Yeah.
We know what you meant.
4 to
5,000
5.
square foot. Yeah.
So like, we said a Dollar General was how large? Like
I think she
10.
said 10.
10.
So if you did 5,000, that's half the size of a Dollar General.
mhm.
Or you could do 10. I mean,
Yeah.
Dollar
Up to
Generals
10.
aren't that large, and they could have, you know, yoga studio
Yeah.
or exercise place, or,
Yeah, it doesn't have to
I-
be super big.
I think cap it
10.
at 10.
Seems reasonable, I guess.
Ready for 3 then? All retail business, service establishments, or processing uses as follows. A, any retail business whose principal activity is the sale of merchandise in an enclosed building.
But there's no size again on this.
You want to use the same numbers we had for the personal service?
Or rewrite it to say retail and personal service
And just combine them?
exceeding 2,500 to 10,000.
And kind of combine 2 and 3? But with basically
I
square
would-
footage, or?
I would say this, I wouldn't stress out too much about the square footage.
Okay.
I'd come up with kind of the general idea of what you're looking at. And I will, hopefully in the next meeting or so, bring in a lot of examples
Okay.
for people to,
Okay, that-
kind of wrap their head around the size.
so we're gonna leave that in blue for now? Because we have to revisit it?
yeah.
Okay, 4, private clubs, fraternal organizations, and lodge halls. 5, theaters, assembly halls, concert halls, or similar places of assembly when conducted completely within enclosed buildings. 6, business schools and colleges or private schools operated for profit. 7, other uses similar to the above uses. 8, accessory structures and uses customarily incident to the above permitted uses. Seems like that number 4, private club, seems to cover quite, maybe that's not a big deal, private. Not sure what the definition of a private club is,
I don't know the definition, but, I mean, you're gonna be talking to Eagles or Moose Lodge or,
Aren't those,
Or
but.
the
And that's not
fraternal.
a lodge and
those
fraternal.
lodge and fraternal organizations? That would be country clubs, private clubs.
yep.
So we're going down to, what, section 902, required conditions? Or-
Are you okay with private clubs like country clubs in that district?
Yeah, I just didn't know, like, when somebody says, I have a private club, I want to put here. Oh, what is your private club?
Like if they want to put
What
in
the
the golf
definition of
course
a
and all
private-
that stuff.
I know the good things that kind of fall into that category, I'm just not too sure about the other things.
There could be some pretty bad things.
Because, I mean, we've got a bookstore.
Unfortunately, though, even if we don't like what they are,
Mhm.
if they're legal, then
Right.
they have to still fit in there.
Right,
Right.
that's why I didn't know, like.
Now,
what
the
falls
stuff
in.
like the bookstore, that's going to be covered, because we're going to add in the section that the trustees adopted regulation of adult entertainment in bookstores. We'll include that into your zoning.
Good.
So that'll just get incorporated in. So those will be able to be, if it's something that, maybe say it's a private club, but if it falls down into that other thing, it's still regulated.
Okay, that's good, I think.
Casey helped with that, didn't he?
Yeah, he wrote them all. Yeah, it was his pet project.
Yep.
So we in 902, required conditions. 1, all business establishments shall be retail or service establishments dealing directly with customers. All goods produced on the premises shall be sold at retail on the premises where produced. 2, all business servicing or processing, except for off-street parking, loading, and those open-air uses indicated as being subject to special conditions in section 1103 below, shall be conducted within completely enclosed buildings.
These are required conditions, not conditional uses, though, so keep that in mind. Those are just the general that'll go to everything, okay?
Section 903, principal uses permitted, subject to special conditions. 1, open-air business uses when developed and planned relationship with the B2 district as follows. A, retail sales of plant material not grown on the site and sales of lawn furniture, playground equipment, and garden supplies, provided further that such uses shall be located at the exterior end of the building mass located in the B2 district. B, recreational space.
Go back there a minute, when they said exterior end of the building mass, does that mean that if they have a greenhouse or a showroom of play equipment or little sheds or whatever, it has to be behind their office or their retail building? Is that what that implies? Because usually if you're selling stuff like
Right.
that, you want it out by the
Front.
street.
Right, where they have to
Yeah,
walk
but
by
you
it.
don't, you want it fenced in. You don't want all the kids in the neighborhood playing there all the time.
Well,
No, I mean, just like the granary.
Right.
or-
that's
or,
exactly where I was thinking. Or the sheds over there by Menards, no, it's not Menards. The,
Yeah, they're
On
just
224
one of
there.
Tractor
Yeah,
Supply.
Tractor Supply area.
that's it. Do you want to keep that, or do you want to move that to B3? garden supply places are not usually that offensive to
No,
have around.
no, not at all.
But telling them they have to put everything behind their building may not be,
That kind
Yeah.
of,
Is that what exterior end of the building mass means?
no idea. That's why I'm asking what you guys think it means, because you're the ones that are gonna have to tell people what it means. not me.
Exactly, that would be my guess, but
And
it's.
it's mine
it's not-
too,
it's
but
not
since
clear.
I read it and went,
Exterior
oh, I
end
decided to
of
ask.
the building.
Seems like we should be able to clean that up so that there's not a question.
right.
I mean, where.
Because they want to display stuff that people can see
Right.
from the street.
Of course.
Right.
The other thing, which is just sort of a human nature thing, if we require people to have stuff where public can't see it immediately, things are more likely to get a little junky. Because if they have to save face and look good to get people to come in, it's out in the front, they're gonna take better care of what's going on.
Right.
That's just, some people's backyards aren't nearly as well landscaped and manicured as the front, because people don't see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it really mean
I'd say,
anything?
I'd say conversely, I swear every business in Findlay wants to put things out in their parking lot for sale. And some
Yes.
people find that rather, they
A
find it
little off-putting.
off-putting, yeah.
But
Yeah.
then it doesn't sink in the mud if it's out in the parking lot.
Well, no, it should, a lot of community stance is it should be in the store,
Yeah,
not,
right.
not just sitting in the parking lot for sale.
Like the tables on the streets, you end up walking out on the curb,
Yeah.
balancing to get
Yeah.
around the tables at lunchtime.
Outdoor storage is it's a subject that pops up a lot.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be encouraged because birds come along too.
I mean, would it make a difference if we just eliminated that where it starts to be located and end at the district? Does that really say anything?
The parking lot issue, they still need to have the amount of off-street parking that we're gonna require. So I don't think even if they put it in front, that they can put it in their parking area.
If I were writing a code, I would personally prohibit outdoor storage of things for sale. Just thinking of this, like in the B1 and B2 district, you just can't do it. And then maybe.
Which would move this then to B3.
Then maybe like commercial nurseries and things like that, where you sell things outside, maybe would go into the B3 district.
I think I'm okay with that idea. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we like
Go
that?
with
Yeah,
B3.
we do.
And I'd maybe just put a note in B1 and B2, outdoor storage of materials is prohibited, outdoor storage of merchandise for sale is prohibited, something along those lines. And then in B3, outline your stipulations for outdoor storage of materials and merchandise, whether it be enclosed within a fence, whether it be wherever, or it's free for all, or it's behind the front facade of the building, whatever you guys think, but that's. And then in the industrial districts, Findlay allows outdoor storage of things there's really no limit on outdoor storage as long as it's enclosed within a fence. It doesn't have to be a private, just as long as it's enclosed by a fence.
When we change this though to say retail sales of plant materials not grown on the site and sales of lawn furniture, the reason we say not grown on the site, because if they're selling stuff that's grown on the site, it's an agricultural use, and you don't have the ability to regulate it.
Okay.
Retail sales of plants and materials not grown on the site and sales of lawn lawn furniture, playground equipment, and garden supplies, provided further that no merchandise is stored outside the building, which is very much like we have in B1, that the business has to be entirely carried on inside the building.
So, yeah,
So maybe,
I don't really care what you're selling, within reason. I mean, there's, but, I mean, obviously there's the exceptions, but in general, if you're selling plants or you're selling rocking chairs, that's no different. To me, it's a retail use, and it should be done entirely
Inside.
within the building.
Okay.
Within B1 and B2.
Which the only thing is, it'd be tougher if like you had a playground. But I think at the granary, and I think if you said, hey, you can't have your stuff outside anymore.
in sheds, yeah.
You can't have your
Remember how
sheds,
they
you
do
can't
that?
have your poly chairs, your kids' playground things outside anymore. They can't take their playgrounds inside to sell. And so that's
Maybe
what-
it's not a good place for them to do business.
Right, so it would just have to be, yeah.
So do we want to leave this in here at all, or just remove it and put it in B3 with, and just have, take out where they can store their stuff, but say how they have to have certain screening or protection of
I
their
mean, to
stuff?
me, this sentence is only there because it's allowing for the outdoor storage of these
Right.
items. So depending on which way you want to go with that, depends if we want this in there.
So why do we need it at all if we aren't going to have it for something that allows for outside storage? Because we already have in B1 that any retail sales that's going on inside a building is permitted, and B1s are permitted in B2, it's already permitted. So we don't really need it if we aren't identifying these certain things that can have outside storage. That
You know,
makes-
I don't think, if we don't want outdoor storage of merchandise or materials in B2, then it should be
But it's
removed.
been removed,
Bless
right? That where you guys are looking? What do you think of that?
Yeah.
You're saying to remove what part then?
A, the whole section A.
I think so. I mean, initially, we were gonna combine, B1 and B2, so I think keeping it more similar to B1 than to B3.
And we have B1, the cascade down, it's still going to be permitted
Right,
the inside.
right.
We'll move this to 3 and then put, like Matt was saying, some stipulations on how they store outside merchandise and
Yeah.
limitations on what they can have, so they don't end up with a, whole car lot full of weird stuff. Sort of like the creepy statues.
My pet peeve is gas stations that sell mulch.
Yeah.
Just,
Stacked all over the place where they shouldn't be.
Broken bags.
Or
Yeah.
the Sasquatch statues that are 8 feet tall.
those just made me laugh. That was,
Yeah, one of the girls who used to work there works for the county now, and she said the first one they got was to catch people's attention. They can't keep them on the lot. People keep buying them, they have to get another one.
that's crazy.
Alrighty then.
Section B then?
Where are we at?
Section
B.
B.
Page 4,
Page 4.
section B at the top.
Recreational.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Recreational space providing children's amusement park and other similar recreation when part of a planned development, provided further that such use be located at the exterior end of the building mass, located in a B2 district, but not at the intersection of two major thoroughfares. Such recreation space shall be fenced on all sides with a 4-foot chain link type fence.
You
Yeah, some of this is really bad.
require a chain link. Oh,
So, one, and I would,
Sorry. Children's amusement park.
Yeah, what is this exactly?
so,
Yeah.
I guess my first thought, I mean, this is,
Yeah.
Is this a playground or is this a park? or-
what, I haven't looked
For
ahead
planned
in
development.
this story. Is there a PUD section proposed in the code? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah,
That's one of the things you're supposed to explain.
yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
just think you scratch this.
Yeah, it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Not sure.
And
I can understand why they don't want it near the
There's a
intersection.
planned unit development coming up.
I really
Okay.
dislike things for kids that have chain link fence around them too. You gonna put barbed wire on the top?
Yeah, yeah.
Looks too much like a prison, but hey,
So get rid of B?
Yeah.
Supposed to keep the bad guys out.
well, then we have, do we need one then? Open air business used when developed in a planned relationship with B2 district as follows. So these are A and B under
Right.
section
Right,
There's
one.
no
right.
sec- no
Yeah,
reason to
I'd
have it
say
at
we-
that point.
So do we even need
I-
section one up there then?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
I see what you're saying. I was looking forward. I'm like, I'm not seeing what, gotcha.
Yeah. We took away all of its instances, so there's no point in having
Right,
it there.
right.
Ready for 2?
Yeah, I added indoor soccer or baseball facility because we discussed things like that the
Right.
last time, but it's up to you guys.
Right.
Bowling alley, billiard hall, indoor archery range, indoor tennis courts, indoor skating rink, indoor soccer or baseball facility, or similar forms of indoor commercial recreation when located at least 100 feet from any front, rear, or side yard of any residential district. 3, automobile service centers when developed as part of a larger planned shopping center designed so as to integrate the automobile service center within the site plan and architecture of the total shopping center, and provided further that a building permit shall not be issued separately for the construction of any automobile service center within the B2 district.
Is that like Walmart with the tire center in it?
That sounds like.
So,
Why would they have to have
but that
that?
wouldn't even apply, I mean, like a Walmart wouldn't even apply in B2, that'd be a B3 thing for.
Right.
Or are they talking about the permit to build a shopping center like strip mall that has one of these in them? Why is that listed there?
So 2, and I feel like there's a trend with this code, the way it's formatted, in that I feel like to me, 2 is indoor recreational facility.
Right.
And then the definition of an indoor recreational facility kind of is more of that. But anyways, and then 3, I don't, so the way we differentiate is, in Findlay, is there's automotive service center, and that's like, is it Bell Tire? Your fire, your 4 or 5 bays, you service cars, or oil, the quick oil changes. We've got 2 new ones going up in Findlay here real soon.
Oh, wow. Not enough of them yet?
I know, I sometimes wonder. And then the more intense is kind of the auto body, the collision repair shops, which tend to have, store cars for a week, waiting for,
Or more.
Or more.
Find pieces.
Till they find the pieces. So that's just a little bit how we differentiate. So I guess if I were thinking of it, I would say, automotive service centers, if you want, permitted in B2, and then collision centers, you would consider maybe B3, or the like. You could even go light industrial with collision centers. I think Findlay's I1 for collision centers.
I would think body shops or collision centers would be in the industrial.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they can be loud, they can have a lot of external effect on the neighbors with the cars that are parked there and
that all squares with me. I can't remember how the old Kia dealership by the Olive Garden, because that's not zoned I-1, but that's,
That had been there for a really long time,
I-
maybe even before it got pulled into the city.
well, it was the dealership, but it came anyways. But no, collision centers, I kind of recommend I-1. And then your general service, I don't have much issue being in B2 and B3.
How about like a dealership? Is that more of a B3 thing at that point?
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Okay.
usually larger and they want to be very large in scale.
Right. So
We
I
have
think-
that currently under B3,
yeah.
Okay.
So I
And that's
think, I
new
think
cars.
auto service,
new and used, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so used are.
Yeah, keep it in, we have, everyone and their brother wants to start a dealership, and they
Oh,
want to do
no.
it in the oddest places, so I recommend B3 for new and used. A pet peeve of mine also.
so do we simplify 3 to be like auto service center? But, I mean, they're calling out as part of a planned shopping center. Do we need?
Yeah, that's all just weird stuff.
Right.
Is that like where you put a bell tire beside a strip mall kind of thing, or?
I don't know exactly what they're aiming for. Part of me thought of the Walmart service center, which,
That was my first thought too,
but then I'm almost envisioning the way they describe the architecture and everything. You know, you have a 1975 shopping center and it's got a Swiss look to it, and you have an automobile center, and if it has that same look, then it's fine. But that's
but
just
who
not.
does that?
I know.
Yeah.
It's just not today, so
Yeah.
my recommendation is you scratch it most
Look
everything.
at
Just,
automobile service centers.
yeah.
Mhm.
In the
Do you need to
other,
identify that or define that?
I think we do need to define that, yes. Because then you start getting in these weird areas of like transmission service, where it's more than just, you know, I'm there for one, you know, it could be there a long time also.
So it would probably, in the definition, include without outside storage?
Well, then you get into cars, and is that storage or parking? You know, my car's at Bell Tire, the tire, you know, that's just a gray area that I've run into a lot.
How do we keep that from happening? How do we, isn't that what we kind of want it to be defined as in B2, that they're ones that don't have a bunch of cars sitting there waiting to be worked on?
Yeah, I mean,
Unless
no,
the person's sitting in it, waiting to roll in for their next person in line?
I don't disagree. I just, I know in my career, I've run into a lot of, am I storing the cars, or are they parked there?
So how do
or-
we identify that, you think?
Yeah,
And how soon are the parts coming in?
The new body shop that's on Tiffin Avenue, was that Caliber or something like that?
Yeah.
It seems like they keep all their cars behind. You don't even know that that's a body shop.
it was
when you drive
it was a
by.
conditional use, and that was one of the requirements.
That's where
me,
the
that's smart.
dealership used to be?
Yeah.
So it's nice that regardless of what that is, if that was a transmission shop or anything, if somehow you could define to where all the parking on cars, overnight parking or whatever, has to be behind.
But it may not be seen from the street, but the neighbors could see it.
Yeah,
And that could be,
unless you do a fence then.
yeah.
Like, I
So-
don't know if they've got a fence behind there, or, well, it is nice that, I like that you don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of kind of how a conditional use, even if it's permitted use, they have to go to planning commission. And I feel like there's more liberty to put a lot of conditions on a conditional use than there is. You can still put conditions on a permitted use, but I think it's a little more stringent of a test when it's permitted use and you start getting kind of out there in the weeds about different conditions and things.
And these are under conditional uses.
So for that, did you say?
I mean, one thing, you could put the automotive service centers, automotive service facilities under a conditional use.
Okay, this is principal uses permitted subject to special conditions. Should we say subject to
So
conditional
I've had this issue
use?
all along. I think it should clearly state, these are the permitted uses,
And
and
these are
then
the
these are
conditional
conditional
uses.
uses. yeah, sometimes some of the verbiage makes it feel like it's a little of both, and that's not, because I think more of what some of these things they're talking about, I'd almost call them development standards, where they talk about X amount of feet or different criteria.
So you're saying get rid of the term special conditions, make it conditional uses, and does that go back to where you said there's those 5 criteria?
Well, the special conditions, in some ways, to me, yeah, so where's it, I'm not
Back 1 page is where it says special conditions.
on,
Page 3 is where they first start.
Right here.
Section 903
This one.
is where
Yeah.
they start
Yeah,
special
down
conditions.
here in the bottom.
so I don't know what that means. Does it mean conditional use?
I think
Right.
that
Or
was
does
the
it mean-
intent, But I don't like it. I think
No, it's,
Yeah.
it needs to clearly just say conditional use. Conditional use is a term in zoning that everyone recognizes. No one recognizes
And we'll
principal
have
uses.
a section identifying how conditional uses are analyzed later.
So to me, principal, to me, says principal use is permitted. I interpret that as a permitted use. But then to special conditions, that's where I almost label this as, to me, this is describing development standards.
So I would like to change that heading to just conditional uses,
Yep.
because they are necessarily permitted. They are subject to conditional
Yeah,
uses.
right.
So,
Yeah.
Okay,
Conditional use.
yeah, principal, okay, we have principal uses permitted. So that's your,
at the top.
I would relabel all of those to permitted use. And then our O3s, which all seem to be principal uses permitted subject to special conditions, should be changed to conditional uses. And then I think somewhere in the general authority or rules, you put all conditional uses must go to planning commission for approval. And that's, we had, and that's whether you're building something or not. We just had some home occupations are conditional uses, you know, someone wants to do a hair salon in their home or something. But they're not doing anything or building anything, they still have to go to planning commission. So. But,
Ours wouldn't be planning commission, though, it'd be the zoning commission.
yeah,
Okay.
but as a planner, I like to control things, and that's, Allen Township doesn't love to control things, so I'm telling you, that's putting
Right.
things in a more controlling atmosphere.
I think that's the easier way to do this, though, because the principal use is permitted subject to special conditions basically means that we have to predict all the special conditions and what the, you know,
Yeah,
like,
And if
No
they
matter-
aren't listed,
and
they
you
may not
can't-
count, so.
Exactly.
No,
but you-
I could see you guys getting in a fight with someone about what the meaning of this is.
Right.
I think it needs to say
It's been kind of
conditional
gnawing
use.
at me all the way through here going.
It has me too.
conditions.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think those need to be relabeled.
Just the conditional uses.
Yes, and
Yep.
And then the first line should say, all conditional uses must be authorized by the zoning commission.
yeah, you could list it each time or one,
I'll
yeah.
put it under the conditional use reminder on each section. Okay, how about prior to? All conditional uses must be authorized by the zoning commission prior to a permit being issued. That way they know, you know, it's clear that they have, oh, I was going with that. Amount of formatting that's messed up from doing that conversion is mind-boggling. It's messing it all up. That was a great thing when I saw it. I'm like, ooh, no more retyping everything. But really?
Yeah, they've gotten better at it, but it's still not a
Still got
perfect
some
site.
bugs, yeah. Okay, so now we are, looking at, we're at the point of the,
Table.
Page
Table
34.
again. "40-foot is definitely a 3-story, correct?
Maximum 3-story, I
Okay.
would say.
Is that acceptable?
I mean, the place that's not gonna work is for those indoor sports facilities. They gotta be way taller than 40 feet, but that's a conditional use at that point.
Are they
Right?
taller than 40 feet?
Those white dome things, are we talking the same thing?
Hmm? Are they taller than 40 feet?
I don't know.
I would say,
I would
We're getting a
think
big yes over there.
yeah, so I would say, I want to build a dome. I would keep the 40 feet, because
It's
that's,
conditional at that point.
well, the conditional, you can't waive, in my opinion, the board can't just waive, like, well, you
It would
don't
be a
need.
variance.
You'd have to get a variance.
Okay.
It would be an
But
area
my,
variance.
someone who says, I want to build a dome, I'd say, well, the appropriate district is B3.
Because they'll have a higher,
But I want to build a bowling alley, well, B2 will work, you know.
Right.
what about the indoor areas? Pacesetter has one, there's one up in Maumee for indoor soccer.
Steve makes.
I don't know how tall those are.
You're talking about the white,
No, not the domes.
Okay.
The buildings. There's one in Maumee up off
Reynolds
Dussel
Road.
Drive, up in there. My kids have played in all those. They aren't that, I think 40 feet, because they hit the ceiling a lot. Get a blue card and hit the ceiling.
I would still, so, I mean, not to get too crazy, I mean, and I'm not super knowledgeable on it, but there's some zoning codes, you know, that almost go exclusively by the shape and size of the building rather than the uses. A form-based zoning code. So I would say someone that needs to go higher than 40 feet, just because it's a permitted use, doesn't mean that it's not, that size and shape in itself is different than,
Okay.
you know, so
So maybe not have a maximum in this kind of area, or is that what you're saying?
no, I would stick with the 40 feet.
Okay.
And if someone needs a higher
Higher.
level, then they go to the more intense B3 area.
Okay.
So there were, maybe other buildings are that same height.
Yeah.
So you don't see something big sticking out where everything else is 20 feet tall, and then you see a 40.
Like, what's that big building? Well, it's a bowling alley, it's permitted, you know.
B3 only has 30.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, then we'll have to talk about that one.
Yeah, we definitely will. Some of this doesn't make sense for how they are. And what about the setbacks? We currently have 80, 40, and 40. But again, they can have loading in the side or in the back setbacks, loading docks, and they can have parking in the front setback area.
To me, 80 just seems like a long ways off for me.
Nope, you're good. So the 80, 40, 40.
It does seem like quite a
I'm
bit.
trying to figure out why they would have said 80 for a front setback.
That is,
For B2, because it's obviously very
Right.
different from B1 and B3.
Right.
I would say the intent that we've kind of shaped with B2, 80 is really big.
Yeah.
Just-
Even if they're allowing parking there.
What do you think, 50, 60, something like that?
I mean, does 80 make more, I mean, not that we've spelled out exactly what a B3 is, but does 80 make sense for a B3?
I'll just tell you what Finley's are for So C2, which is the Walmarts and the like, front yard's 30, side yard's 15. If adjacent to residential, it's 25. Rear yard is 30.
That's for a Walmart.
That's for C2 the most, and that's everything on Tiffin and Trenton Avenue.
And what was your front setback there? 30?
30.
And we have 30 for B1 and B3, so.
Right.
Makes me wonder if that was a typo at some point and should have been a 30 instead of an 80. Doesn't seem odd.
Washington's is, I think it's 80 as well.
Doesn't mean it wasn't a typo once it got carried
Yeah,
over
no.
and over.
I mean, the reality is, most places will have a parking lot. I mean, in commercial, we don't really see much conflict with setbacks.
Right.
Because
They need the space.
they need
Right.
space, they need room for trucks to maneuver into the back, they need all sorts of stuff, so.
As long as we have the ability to allow their off-street parking to be in their setback area, which we do, with some provisions of how close the parking could be to the road, then I don't think it would hurt them. It doesn't hurt us either way.
Right.
But making them set it back 80 feet
That's a
really makes
lot.
them have to have a deeper lot.
Mhm.
Do you want to go with 30 like everything else and stay uniform?
I think so. That works.
Then we have side yards are 40
Wow.
and rear are 40. I think those are more than should be. Again, they're way higher than the other two sections. and
Right.
I'm not sure why.
We must have missed the nuance of their intent on this district.
Clearly.
So C2 in Finley is 15. If it's adjacent to residential, it's 25 for the side yard.
Okay, so B2 should not be next to residential, correct?
It could be.
Yeah, nothing works out exactly as
And
planned.
and not,
Um,
is that residential district or a residential use?
Use or zoning.
Right, so if they have a house that's already built in the B3 or in the B2 area, then it would
Okay.
have the, if you don't want to have that kind of analysis, just pick a number that is somewhere that you can live with. This applies to both situations.
Want to do 15 or 20 or? I think 40 is more than what
Right.
is needed.
I'd probably just go 20.
Okay, that works.
For both?
Probably. I mean, B1 has got 20 on their,
Right.
on their rear, so
Right,
it still kind of is in
Mhm.
between / matches up with what's
Mhm.
going on.
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That it?
For B2.
Article 10, B3 General Business District. Section 1010, I guess we went over that. Section 1001, principal uses permitted. In a general business district, no building or land shall be used, and no building shall be erected except for one or more of the following specified uses unless otherwise provided in this resolution. 1, any retail business or service establishment permitted in B2 districts as principal uses permitted and uses permitted subject to special conditions. 2, auto wash. 3, bus passenger stations. 4, new and used car sales room, showroom, or office. 5, motels. 6, contractor offices with storage yards. With a
Are there
notation.
motels anymore? Aren't they all hotels? What's the difference between a hotel and a motel?
I thought it was like if you enter from outside or from an interior hallway,
Okay.
wasn't that?
That's a motel.
Right.
It's a
That's
motor,
been my understanding.
Okay.
and you would
Now that
park
you
in
say that,
front
I
of
think
it.
that's what it, yeah.
Yeah.
And a
The doors
hotel,
open to
So like the
exterior
red roof
versus a
inns,
hall.
the red roof inns tend to, I think they all from the outside.
Are
Mhm.
hotels, or
Or
motels.
motels.
those
that
are
point.
motels.
So,
So should we just
Motor
add
rooms.
more verbiage? have motels, hotels?
I mean, I would say motels and hotels are both in that B3 at that point.
My initial thought is you permit hotels and leave motels out as not necessarily permitted. I think
Okay.
it's prefer, I mean.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
I mean, now that you've provided some information, you know, I don't think of motels and be like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Motels is usually for a one-night sleep, a one-night stay, or, you know, a couple if you're seeing stuff around the area. But a hotel has a dining room and everything, and usually motels don't.
I mean, motels aren't associated with, you know,
Nicer neighborhoods.
Right.
Speaking of hotels, motels, what about bed and breakfasts? Are those something that you would permit? An inn, people call things inn, so are they technically hotels, or is there a difference?
They come to spend a week to enjoy meals with the people that
I
live
would think
there.
that bed and breakfast would have a much smaller
Yeah.
Well, you wanna permit
clientele,
those?
and I would think that that would fit better being a little closer to residential possibly than an actual hotel.
Yeah.
That-
this is another,
And it-
this is one of these hard, so the definition of a bed and breakfast in Findlay is the host lives there.
Right, okay.
And then it goes on about common dining room facilities and things like that. Probably the issue that we'll be looking at more and discussing is Airbnbs.
That was my next thing, because Airbnbs would almost, by definition, end up in the residential areas,
Yeah.
Sure.
and that can cause a lot of ruckus for a neighborhood to have Airbnbs.
It's definitely a change that it's taking time for people to sort through on.
I know a lot of people want to do it, you know,
Right.
be able to rent their places out, but in our neighborhood, we had a guy across the street who turned a house that he bought that he was flipping into a place for 10 college kids.
Oh, no.
So we had 10 college kids living across the street from us. Turned out they were wonderful kids that did stuff like made sure I didn't have to shovel snow or carry groceries. They were great, but they could have been a frat house. So that's a problem, you know.
So, I think, and this is where the definitions really, you have to define hotel, define motel, define bed and breakfast, define Airbnb. And then, I don't know that you have to, then there's, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen or interacted with a boarding house. I mean, that's more 1930s, 40s, 50s movies type stuff that I see. But, I mean, there's a lot of different kind of, and when I say transient, I don't say negative. It's just transient place to
Yeah.
stay.
With the current problems, though, that Hancock County and Findlay are facing, people may decide to have boarding houses. Because if you have 2 or 3 extra bedrooms and there's all these people with no place to live, they may start renting them. And that could be, you know, also
Yeah, I
a
mean-
difference in the neighborhood. But we may be covering that when we say single family and define family. That, you know, they can, but it says, you know, no more than 3 people other than those in the family living there.
That's under enforcement, you know, when there's 8 people living in a house.
Right.
And common sense says none of them are related, it's still, it's
hard.
a heck of a thing to enforce.
It's hard to
Especially-
enforce, but you're less likely to have it, I think, if you identify that it could be enforced.
Yeah,
If you
no,
just make it,
I'm
oh
just-
yeah, it can happen, it'll happen,
Yeah.
and then you gotta decide if that's something that you wanna have. And it's not always a bad thing, sometimes, like, our situation turned out great, but, you know, we were lucky, we only did it for 1 school year.
I think in some ways it's almost a subject that we'll have to separate out, have a discussion about with more
Yeah,
information.
before next time, I'll come back with some definitions of hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, Airbnb, and some of these other things I've written down that we need definitions for.
And a
And we'll-
convalescent home,
Yeah,
boarding house.
Well, a lot of them with bed and breakfast they're an organization, and they have to be covered with special insurance also.
the Airbnbs, I think they have to, if you really want, they register and to have somebody market them for them. I don't even know how it all works. We're
I've-
trying to look into it to be
I've
able to
seen-
get
I
bed
know-
tax off of them.
I've seen lots of them. I've seen lots of, because I've been doing research for Finley, I've seen lots of different strategies with Airbnbs. The owner has to live within 50 miles of it. I think Cincinnati has that, which I don't know if that will hold up in court. You know, I've seen a lot of solutions, and I don't know that, I've seen one that
But
I
there's-
like.
And there's been almost nobody challenging anything that, a lot of times we come up with ideas, we don't know if they'll be sustainable. I mean, a lot of things I can tell you that, because case law has, somebody's already challenged it, and it's gone one way or the other. There's not a lot of stuff yet on Airbnbs. It's just kind of a more,
I don't know what the best way.
Seems like a lot of it might be covered under subdivision restrictions. I mean, you know, which doesn't.
Covenants and restrictions are great until no one knows what they are
We
and how to
have-
enforce them.
we
And they're
have-
civilly enforced.
yeah, we have covenants in our neighborhood too, but everybody's like, what are you gonna do about it? I don't wanna sue for it.
Yeah.
And as long as they were nice, young guys living over there, I didn't care, they didn't do anything bad. So,
So
I don't like to sue.
No.
I think we move on with, and then we'll circle back. Because, I mean, some of that goes back to residential districts, and it spans residential through commercial. And
Yeah,
then-
leave some asterisks beside the hotel, so it's what place where we know we need to go back and add some things. The next one is contractor offices with storage yards. This is something that, somebody was here last time. Zoe
Yeah.
suggested you may not want that in B3, you might want to move it to industrial.
I agree.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I guess the question, contractors' offices, to me, what if the contractor office does not have a storage
Should we
facility?
say contractor offices without storage yards are okay, but with storage yards go to industrial?
I'd say definitely contractor offices with storage yards would be light industrial.
All right.
Contractor's office, you know, Bob's Electrical, they're doing well. They've got 15 vehicles that go out every day. You know, that's another one. It's a little bit of a gray area. But
That's not considered a storage yard, just to have their trucks parked there at night, right?
I wouldn't think
No.
so.
No? I don't think.
no, I
They're-
agree.
Unless they're putting heavy equipment there, and then that's gonna be a bit of an issue.
Yeah. So, yeah, if it's completely enclosed, I don't have too much issue with it. You will be surprised at who will still complain about it, but.
A lot
So
of it
for
depends on
number
how it
6,
looks.
what's that?
No, I'd say it depends on how it looks, really.
Yeah. Do we wanna put under 6 here, these are under permitted uses. Do we want to move that under conditional uses?
Yeah, I would.
Even if it doesn't have a storage yard, you
Yes.
still think?
Contractor offices without storage yards under conditional uses.
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved on to 7.
Oh,
Contractor's office,
I think we've pretty much decided with storage yards needs to go to light industrial.
Right.
Do you want to have an option in B3 for just the offices that don't have the whole, storage yard kind of stuff there?
I think so.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
And do you want to put it under a permitted use or under a conditional use? So you can ask the questions of, well, just exactly how you're going to be doing business. You're going to have trucks there, going to have equipment. If you do you want to have it, screened? How do you think,
yeah.
you think that would be?
Yeah, I mean, it gives the township the opportunity to say, yes, no, one of the conditions is you can't have any equipment on, out. I don't mind it being a conditional use, but people have accused me of wanting everything as a conditional use, so.
Well, you don't want something that's gonna be sitting there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Do you like the conditional use?
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
who's good with that?
So we're moving to 7. Other uses similar to the above uses.
And that's where I think we come up with the standard verbiage that we use every time that says, other uses similar to the above, move it to conditional use, and then other uses similar to the mentioned in the, some form of standard thing that's a little bit of the
So
catch-all.
the other uses similar should not stay in the permitted use?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I guess that makes sense, because it's, you don't know what the other uses are at this point.
Yeah.
And then 8, accessory structures and uses customarily incident to the above uses.
That we almost have to tack on to all of them.
So move on to section 1002. Principal uses permitted, subject to special conditions. The following uses shall be permitted, subject to the conditions hereinafter imposed for each use and subject further to the review and approval of the zoning commission.
This is still gonna be called conditional uses then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that change through all of
Yeah.
the O2s.
Okay, so we don't need all the list.
So go with 1, automobile service station for the use of gasoline, oil, and minor accessories only, and where no repair work is done, other than incidental service, steam cleaning or undercoating, vehicle body repair, painting, tire recapping, engine rebuilding, auto dismantling, upholstering, auto glass work, and such other activities whose external effects could adversely extend beyond the property line shall not be permitted.
So I think I see what they're doing. So in their minds, I think B2 was almost the most intense. It had the larger setbacks. It had automobile repair. And then B3, oddly, is kind of a step down.
That makes sense.
Because to me, in B3, I'd say automobile service station / gas station is a permitted use.
Are we like waiting until she comes back? Can I get your name real quick, please?
Yeah, we'll wait till she gets back. It's Matt Cordonnier,
Spell it for me.
Cordonnier.
And you're a planner with Finley.
Yeah, I'm the director of Hancock Regional Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Yep. Real quick, I've got a few kids texting me and I got,
Said, come save me, Dad.
where's dinner? What's this? Who's taking me home?
Sounds like you're a daddy.
Yeah. So, I guess, anyways, I did keep augmenting the maps, keep updating them. So this is an updated version of how things are being used today. I will have a version probably next week that kind of labels, landfill, junkyard. This is as red as commercial. It's an old tank farm. That's a junkyard. And then I found a few parcels that had a mobile home on it. According to the auditor's office, mobile homes are a commercial use. So that was they're taxed under commercial.
Okay.
So it keeps getting better. I made improvements from the last time, but understanding what's here will be really important in the future when you
That
look.
we don't want it.
And then I have some bigger versions, 36 by 36. One is the plain Allen Township for drawing on, and I can make plenty of copies. And then other is a bigger version of this, and then a bigger version with the aerial behind it. Like I was just telling them, we've been refining it. Hopefully next week we'll have most of these unique things labeled so people can understand
Okay.
what's out there. So
One of us needs to ask Mark if he could get us 3 36 by 36 of those foam boards, so we can put them on there. We can just leave them here. We can put them up where we want them on that.
Okay.
And then we can have access to the whiteboard and the ability to use them and not have to keep them rolled up. And
When you say foam boards, you mean like, kind of like a tripod?
foam
Easel.
core,
Or, yeah,
foam core is
the-
kind of the,
Oh,
the stuff that, we use them when we take maps to court. I don't know.
Yeah.
They,
Keeps them nice and flat.
nice and
Okay.
flat, they're lightweight. You
Okay.
can stick them on with push pins or.
so how many of
Hobby,
those would we?
Hobby Lobby will be the place
Yeah.
to get it.
What do you think? Is that the best
I
place?
believe they have it, yeah.
So how many of those would we need?
3? Are there 3 maps?
There's 3 maps, yeah.
Yep, 3.
I mean, I wouldn't mount, they're still evolving, but you'll probably want it eventually.
Okay, so three
And-
36 by 36
Yeah.
foam core board.
And I think Hobby Lobby will even cut
Yep.
them for you.
Okay,
And
I
then-
think we get ours delivered from Barnes, I think, so.
oh, okay,
Yeah, office places. They might even have them at Walmart, but I don't think they have them that large. I think they're
okay.
more like poster board size there. We need
Okay.
bigger.
Are any of these maps available to the public if people wanted to see them, or is this,
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing special about them, like?
they're created, they're public information.
Everything you
hidden
guys are doing here
treasures?
is public
No.
information. Sounds like it.
Yeah, everything I do is public information at work,
So we could
obviously,
even,
so.
we could even have the camera
Sure.
shift onto,
That's why I think if we get them mounted, even though they're still works in progress, you can set them up here. You guys can all see them easily. You can talk about them, and you can still draw on them while they're up there. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And, at some point, I mean, you can make them available online, but yeah, these are public documents for
Okay.
anyone.
right now, they're still growing documents because they
Yeah,
don't
sure.
have anything on them.
I need to
Right,
put a big
correct.
draft watermark on it.
I have a draft stamp.
Yep. I explained, I gotta get going with
Yep,
the
okay.
kiddos and stuff.
thank you, Matt.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. It is 7:03, are we hoping to get through this, or are we?
I didn't even step
That's
on
for you
it.
guys.
Page 7 is the last one.
I
But I
didn't have
think
to
it's-
drive to Columbus, so I'm not completely wiped out.
The rest of it is conditional uses.
Let's get through this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll get it done.
Good.
Okay, we were in curb cuts, A.
Is this, let's go back to 1 though. Is this a conditional use?
Yes,
Is that what we want it to be?
I think so. Because you don't want something that can have lots of curb cuts. You want to have an idea how they're going to be set up, how they're going to do their lighting.
Okay.
Because one of the things that you can control with conditional use is, you can't control when they do business, but you can control how they affect the neighbors beside them.
Okay.
Have them give you the plan for how their lights are gonna work, have them, explain where they're gonna, their site plan, so you know what it's gonna look like.
Okay. Do we want to change 1 where it's calling out the different steam cleaning, undercoating? Does that all still pertain?
I guess if you wanna define automobile service station, then you probably don't need all that, because the service station will be identified, you'll know what that means, and it won't include those things. Where you guys stand on that?
That sounds good,
I'm okay with that.
yeah. It's not so
Having
wordy.
things defined early on.
Definition section is gonna be your biggest section in the whole book,
Yeah.
which actually is very good.
Okay.
Needs to be clear, it seems
And
like.
you can decide if you want to rearrange the order of the book as well. You can put definitions in the back, some do that, some put them in the front. I prefer them in the back myself, but most of these are in the front,
Okay.
so. So we're gonna take out then everything from steam cleaning until the end, correct? Nope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, maybe we should take out, down through work. It says, auto dismantling, upholstery, and auto glass work. Take that out. But tweak this a bit to say service station for the sale of gasoline, oil, and minor accessories only where no repair work is done other than incidental service, and such activities do not affect at where such,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you see where I'm going on?
Yeah.
this?
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Where such activities, oh, I'm so bad at this.
Whose
Um,
external effects could adversely extend beyond the property line shall not be permitted.
Yeah, where such activities whose external effects will not adversely,
There we go, yes.
I might play with that a little bit when I'm doing the rest of this stuff.
Ready to go down to curb cuts?
I think so.
Mhm.
A, the curb cuts for access to a service station shall not be permitted at such locations that will tend to create traffic hazards in the streets immediately adjacent thereto. Entrances shall be no less than 25 feet from a street intersection measured from the road right-of-way or from adjacent residential districts.
Measured from the nearest edge of the road right-of-way.
Right.
Because the road right-of-way is, sometimes 60 feet wide.
True.
So which side are they measuring from?
Hmm.
The, change it to from the nearest edge of the road right-of-way?
Mhm. And again, this just seems to be a safety issue, like a common sense safety issue.
Common sense does not apply. We have to
Safety.
write it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Safety,
Yeah,
to promote safety.
right. It doesn't say anything about how many entrances you'll permit. Often they want 2, which is normal.
In and
But
out.
sometimes they want 3 or 4, and that starts to make some difficulties.
Traffic problems, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Do we want to just add that then? Add 2?
Yeah, we can try that, and see what Matt says, if he has some issue with that.
Seems like they're tending to have less and less curb cuts, or wanting you
Right.
to have less and less
Right.
curb cuts.
Yeah,
And you like that, I think of the Love gas station in North Baltimore, the one entrance.
mhm,
Everybody pulls in, out,
Sure.
it's wide,
And
Sure.
then
Not a-
they
Sure.
have, yeah.
Yep.
right, and then you do what you have to do after you get
Right.
back. Ready to go to B?
mhm,
The minimum lot area shall be 15,000 square feet and so arranged that ample space is available for motor vehicles which are required to wait. Automobile service stations which are intended solely for the sale of gasoline, oil, and minor accessories and having no facilities for repair or servicing of automobiles, including lubricating facilities, may be permitted on lots of 10,000 square feet, subject to all other provisions herein required. The minimum width of any service station site shall be 100 feet.
100 feet,
That's pretty small.
that's gonna be a long skinny
Yeah.
for 10,000 square feet. Well, Are they talking about minimum width of the lot, or do we mean minimum width at street level, or the street frontage? Because sometimes there's a driveway and they're back behind something else, which isn't an uncommon thing. So then 100 feet, 100 feet makes sense then, but you might want to identify that it's road frontage, a minimum of 100 feet of road frontage.
Okay, on to 2. Outdoor sales space for exclusive sales of new or secondhand automobiles, mobile homes, camper trailers, or rental of trailers and/or automobiles or similar property, all subject to the following. A, the lot or area shall be provided with a permanent, durable, and dustless surface, and shall be graded and drained as to dispose of all surface water accumulated within the area. B, access to the outdoor sales area shall be at least 60 feet from the intersection of any 2 streets. C, no major repair or major refinishing shall be done on the lot. D, all lighting shall be shielded from adjacent residential districts.
Sometimes we say streets, sometimes we say roads. Which would you like to have it all the way through? Street/road? Only street or only road?
I'm good with road.
Yeah.
I get,
You were going to say street?
no, I was gonna say, when I think of street, I think of something within the city.
Yeah.
If
Or
I,
in the village.
Exactly.
or in the village.
Exactly.
When I think of road, I think of where we live on.
And there are no streets,
We,
except in the subdivisions, there are. But
Well,
the subdivision,
yes.
and you could with, if you have an industrial park, have streets.
Okay.
Because they're subdivided like a subdivision and platted.
okay.
So, do we want to make it one of those obnoxious slash things?
We could. We could.
Just to be consistent, that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
A is talking about water runoff.
Mhm.
Is there retention and detention ponds, or does that go into ponds later? Or like, is that somehow covered with any of this?
It isn't in the pond section.
Okay.
I don't think we want to get any more specific than that, because since it's a conditional use, they'll show you how they plan to do it,
Okay,
and you can ask those questions.
that's fair.
They have it build up on a slant so the water just goes to the curb and down.
Well, if there's no curbs, they may have to have a
Don't have to have a plan.
Retention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Way for a drain.
Go to 3.
Mhm.
Business in the character of a drive-in or drive-through establishment, subject to the following conditions. A, a setback of at least 60 feet from the right-of-way line of any existing or proposed street shall be maintained, or must be maintained. B, access points shall be located at least 60 feet from the intersection of any 2 streets. C, all lighting shall be shielded from adjacent residential districts. D, a 6-foot-high, completely obscuring screen shall be provided when abutting or adjacent districts are zoned for residential districts. The height of the screen shall be measured from the surface of the ground. Said screen shall further meet the requirements of Article 10, General Provisions.
Yeah, and when we get into Article 10, general provisions, you'll see that screens could be fences, they could be vegetation, they could be a mound. There's different things that you can let them do for. Going back up here, again, when they say of the right-of-way line, we're presuming they mean the one closest to them, but I would like to have that, if you guys.
Yep.
Yes.
And then section D there, they're talking about abutting to residential. kind of what Matt was saying earlier. He said a residential, property being used for residential or a residential district. And I'm not sure, I mean, this calls out residential district.
Should we say for resident zoned, abutting or adjacent to districts are zoned for residential districts?
I think it's important to protect the residents, so.
Yeah, I know that in Liberty Township, we faced a big issue when, like, the Waffle House and those things went in, there were still houses sitting there.
Yeah.
And they were like just, not too far away from the grease vent outlet from the restaurant, and it completely destroyed their backyard. They couldn't sit on their deck,
Oh,
So
terrible,
we had
yeah.
to deal with that
Right.
concept. So I can see why we need it. And that is in an area that was then identified as a commercial area because Walmart and all that stuff was there. It wasn't a residential district, so there was no requirement that they had to fence. So I think what you're saying is probably something you need to really discuss, that you would want to include residential use. See what I mean?
As far as, say that again.
That you would want to change this not from just residential districts, but also any
Yeah.
residential
Yes.
use, even if it's in
Yes.
a district that's not zoned
Yes.
residential.
Yes,
That's what I would
yes,
do.
Yeah.
yes, I agree.
Okay, how do I want to fix that? 6 foot high, really use screen.
Okay, can we cross out district and put use, residential use?
Yeah.
Use/districts, whatever.
Okay, you ready to go to 4?
If Cindy is.
I'm working on it. Okay, I'm going.
4, veterinary hospitals or clinics, provided all activities are conducted within a totally enclosed main building, and provided further that all buildings are set back at least 200 feet from abutting residential districts on the same side of the street. 5, plant materials.
Do you want to change that one too, from residential district to residential
Yep.
use or district?
Yeah.
Is that 200 feet, does that seem,
Sounds like a
Does that-
lot, but
That's good.
I think it's a
good.
Yeah.
good thing.
okay, that's fine.
Go to
Did you
5.
did you have a,
No,
okay.
no, I just want to make sure that that seemed to be another specific thing that
Yep.
we want to address. Okay, go ahead.
5, plant materials nursery for the retail sale of plant materials not grown on the site, and sales of lawn furniture, playgrounds, equipment, and garden supplies, subject to the following conditions. A, the storage or display of any materials or products shall meet all setback requirements of a structure. B, all loading and parking shall be provided off-street. C, the storage of all soil, of any soil, fertilizer, and any or other loose, unpackaged materials shall be contained so as to prevent any effects on adjacent uses. 6, mortuary establishments. When adequate assembly area is provided off-street for vehicles to be used in funeral processions, provided further that such assembly area shall be provided in addition to any required off-street parking area. A caretaker's residence may be provided within the main building of mortuary establishments.
We almost have to put that in there because I think
Yeah.
when they have a body in state, they have to have a person there in the building. So having a caretaker's, which we have to put that there because generally speaking, there's no ability to live in the B3 district.
Gotcha.
Okay.
7, publicly owned buildings, telephone exchange buildings, and public utility offices, including transformer stations, substations, or gas regulator stations, all without storage yards.
You know, this is in every zoning book in Hancock County, but I'm not sure that you have any authority to regulate any of these things. So I want to do a little bit more research on that one and find out if we should just not have it.
Okay.
And then section 1003, area and bulk requirements.
Okay, I wanted to add in this section, contractor offices without storage yards. And then the other uses similar to the above uses.
Yeah. Yep, it seems to be like that. Onto the table at this point. We have a maximum height of 30 feet, which is less than B2.
Yep.
So,
If you want, do we have the outdoor recreation stuff in here? Or indoor recreation? We do not.
but it would be the pyramid where it carries over, right? Because it's in
Sure.
B2.
Yeah, we don't have to put it in there again.
Right. But this would be an opportunity to go to a taller building.
Right.
Where it would fit in better.
Do you want to pick a number that still limits the number of floors you're gonna end up with? Do you want to say, we don't want any more than 3 or 4 story buildings? Do you want to let there be really tall buildings?
I wouldn't think so.
Is this hotels too?
Yes, hotels are a permitted use. And hotels could end up being 5 or 6
Yeah.
stories.
And actually, like the Hilton Garden, it's 4 stories, so it's probably 50, maybe
60
60
feet.
feet tall, right? So, depends what you want to put there.
Could you do like a number / 4 stories? Can we do that then? Is that getting into?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as, I think we're doing up above where we say
Okay.
30 feet, no more than 2 stories. And you want to have a story,
I'm
Yeah.
just throwing it out there as an option.
Yeah.
People thought.
Makes sense.
so it would be
Yeah.
like 60 feet, no more than 4 stories? Is that
Yeah.
60?
It
Yeah.
seems like,
Okay, 60, story mat.
unless anybody has any other thoughts.
No, that works.
And then setback wise, front, side, and rear are all at 30.
That's pretty much the same as the other sections.
Right, I think just leave it.
Yeah.
And they still have the same footnotes on them
Right,
for the parking and the loading and all that.
yep.
Okay, you're through all the business stuff.
Yay.
I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want to start industrial, you know?
No.
Come on.
I'm actually taking tomorrow off.
For you.
Hey. Let's see, for the next time. We want to do the industrial, but I don't think it'll take you the entire time.
Okay.
And then you may want to look at general provisions, which is section 15. I think in your big book, it's, it's section 15. And that's pretty extensive. So why don't we just do industrial and as much as we can go through the general provisions.
Do we need to go through these scheduled regulations at all? Right after all the,
Yeah, we probably will want to look at that,
do we
yeah.
want to tackle that right away and then
We'll do that first, and then we will do industrial, and that might take us the whole time. But
Okay.
if we start reading into the general provisions, at least you'll have an idea what we're looking at, because this is where it gets kind of all the weird stuff you don't expect, and all the little things that apply to everything, sort of differently for each one, but sort of general provisions. They apply across the board. It's gonna take a good bit of thinking and talking on that section, so.
Okay.
Then start reading it and you'll be ready.
do we want to open up the floor for some questions, comments? Anybody have any questions or comments? Sir?
I have at least two, and these may be jumping ahead. Question about your maps. I know they aren't filled out yet. Say someone has a property that is, they're living on this property, but there's industrial places near them. What kind of buffer will they have when you draw this map to ensure, because if your group is, or if this proposal, I should say, is going to limit where businesses can go, is that going to then flood some of these areas to attract more business in those areas? And if, like if my house is right next to Home Depot, and that's gonna be commercial or what have you, are we gonna have a bunch of other businesses? How close is that gonna be to my house? And what sort of assurances can I have as a homeowner that I'm gonna have a little bit of buffer?
That's
Yeah.
where those setbacks
Yeah.
come into play.
Yep, the different setbacks will come into place. The one that popped into my head immediately was the veterinary one, where it's 200 feet. Like, I think there's gonna be specific instances, but then there's also gonna be things you can't predict, I guess. So you'll have your conditional use or whatever, where,
Or the standard required setback for the area.
Could
They
we
look like
also,
they're all about 30 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
could we,
But so like 30 feet from a Home Depot distribution center,
It's not that far.
that's
right.
not very far.
Right, and that's kind of the downside. I mean, unfortunately, we have to create the districts, and it's, they have to go somewhere, and ultimately, you can't please everybody. I mean, if the industrial has to go somewhere, it could be next to my house or anybody's house, and it's, without zoning for years, we have houses everywhere. So chances are they're going next to somebody's house. It's just a matter of what fits best for the district, I think is the best way to look at it. What, you know, there's already a Home Depot distribution next to those houses, like, not that you want to flood those houses, but if there's already stuff there, it might make most sense to have industrial where industrial already is. So it's,
could we also interject a green belt?
for sure. I say for sure, but I would.
To somehow help buffer that.
I think that sounds like a great idea, personally, for what my opinion is. My second question is, and again, this may be jumping ahead, but I hear a lot of grandfathered, it would be grandfathered. What about, say, shall we call it a nuisance property,
Okay.
that they're not taking care of things or it's run down? Is there going to be anything built into this document that's going to be able to assist the neighbor who has a nuisance next to them or near them?
Cindy, is that something that can even be covered in?
It's not covered by zoning. Zoning doesn't deal with neighbors, the nuisance of a neighbor. It only deals with the use of the property after zoning, so.
Okay.
But there's still, like, depending on the type of nuisance, there's the opportunity to go to the township trustees for relief from that. If it's debris and garbage, they can go about having it removed and put it on taxes. Same way with noxious weeds.
did you say weeds?
Noxious
mhm.
weeds.
Okay,
Noxious
There's-
like,
Yeah, they have, not just grown-up grass, they have to be weeds that fall on that list of noxious.
Jimson weeds and
Okay,
kind of that.
so, but if
And
like
it's
my,
noxious, not obnoxious, which most people
the
say.
guy across the street has 10 rusty, rotted out cars sitting in his front yard,
Yeah.
And cars are another whole problem altogether.
Yeah.
okay.
It's hard to get rid of, but that's a trustee thing they can do without zoning. So talking to them about that kind of concept.
Okay, and that theoretically then could be done now.
Right.
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 Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Anybody else?